Okay, so today we're going to be doing a tutorial on how to do sandblasting and powder coating. So we're going to start off with rough kind of parts like this, and hopefully by the time we're done, they're going to look really super awesome like this. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're starting here in the metal shop, and a couple things that you're going to need to get started is your metal parts. These can be steel or aluminum. We're also going to need a full face respirator. These are located in the paint studio. They're hanging on the wall, so you can go ahead and grab one of those. That's going to help keep us safe. You're also going to need a roll of wide painter's tape. And then here at our sandblasting cabinet, we've got our cabinet, and we also need this, this yellow hose tube. And so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our raw metal parts, and we're going to make sure that these levers are open so that we can lift the lever. And we're going to place them inside the cabinet. And we've got these big lights in here that we can go ahead and turn on. And so that's what's going to help us be able to kind of really see what we're working on. Okay, at this point, we're going to close the cabinet and we're going to rotate these levers to lock the lid down. But this does not create an airtight seal. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to take our wide tape and we're going to run tape along all four edges where these cracks are. And that's going to help keep the dust to a minimum. So let's just do that real quick. Kind of make your way up and over the edge and kind of press down into it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but again, this just helps reduce how much dust is going to escape this cabinet. Okay, so now that we've got our cabinet set up, let's talk about personal protection. So since we're going to be using these full face respirators, and we're going to be sharing these, so we don't want to stick your raw face into that. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab one of these dust masks, and these are located all over the lab. Oops, excuse me. Set those to the side. And so we'll go ahead and put on one of our dust masks. And make sure it's covering your full face, pinch the nose, so you have a decently good seal here. And then you can put on your dust mask over this.
And on the back, there are going to be some straps that we're going to tug tightly to make sure that we've got a good seal around our face. So we pull there, and there's also ones up here that you can pull if it's not quite tight enough. Okay, so now we've got a full face respirator on with a dust mask. So now we're ready to go. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take this end of the air hose and we're going to connect it here on the side of the dust cabinet. And so I'm going to kind of show you what that looks like. And so here, we're going to kind of pull it back, push it in, and tug on it to make sure that that is on there nice and tight. We then need to add some air. And so here at the corner, you can see that this air is turned off. We're going to rotate that 90 degrees to actually let air into the system. At this point, we're ready to do some sandblasting. And so we're going to reach our hands into the blasting cabinet with both of our hands. In one hand, we're going to go ahead and grab our metal part. In the other hand, we're going to grab the sandblasting gun. And when we pull this trigger, sand is going to come out of this that starts to blast off the edges of all the gross stuff that's on our metal part. So I'll kind of do a quick demo and we'll talk about it. So I'm going to hold it just an inch or two away. And I can see the metal is turning a slightly lighter color, and that's what we want to see. We want to see getting rid of all this kind of gross mill scale and getting that nice colored part left behind. And so I'm going to work on this for a little bit. You want to do both sides and just keep working the parts until you have them all completely cleaned on both sides with the gun. Okay, so as I'm working on this, I'm noticing over time that I'm not getting very much of the abrasive coming through the hose. And so if that happens, if you look down, this hose is connected to this red tube, and you can see that it's kind of sunk down into the blast abrasive. And so sometimes you might just need to kind of like readjust that to make sure it's kind of pushed down into the media so it can actually pick up that abrasive and shoot it through the gun. So if you ever are not seeing very much coming out of the hose, just jiggle it a little bit and get more of it deep into the black abrasive, and that'll give you a little bit better result. Okay, so once you're done with all your parts, what you can do is pull off the gloves, and we want to cut off the air supply first. So what we'll do is we'll come over here, we'll cut off the air supply, and we want to let all the pressure out from the gun. So I'm going to reach back in and pull the trigger just to make sure all the air is out of it. At that point, what we can do is we can take off our respirator. So I'm going to loosen up the straps here.
And I'm going to leave my dust mask on for now because there's still going to be some dust kind of flying around here that I want to be careful about. But I can go ahead and pull up our tape as best as we can. And you can see how much of the dust it actually kept out, which is great. We don't want that flying around the lab if we can avoid it. Okay, we can ball that up. And toss it in the trash. All right, and that's going to give this time a little bit of time for it to settle down. So we'll rotate these guys out a little bit, and again, you can kind of see it's still flying around. So don't lift it up too high. But we can go lift off our part, kind of observe it. We can kind of see that we did a pretty good job. You know, if you notice at this point that there's still some more areas that need to get sandblasted that maybe you missed, you can put it back in, tape it back up, and go at it again. But ideally, you kind of put all your parts in, you try to get it all in one go, and then from there, you'll be in good shape. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this back up. Oh, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the lights so that we don't waste the battery. Oh, there we go. And now we can lock it back up, and we're ready for our next step. Okay, so for our next step, we're going to move out here to the paint studio, and we're going to clean our parts, and then we're also going to get them ready to actually do the powder coating. So when you're ready to kind of do all of this, come out here to the powder coating oven, and we're going to turn on the oven with this big green switch. So we're going to swap that over to the right, lights up, and this is already calibrated and set, so you don't need to touch any other buttons than just this big green switch. So the next part is we need to clean our parts. For this, we're going to get all the oils and grime and grease off of them. And so it's really important that we actually go ahead and put some gloves on. And so we'll grab some gloves here. We're also going to be working with some pretty hazardous chemicals. So again, we want to protect our skin, but also protect the parts. And so we're going to glove up. Okay. And what we're going to need is our parts. Right, we're going to need some isopropyl alcohol. We're going to need some lint-free rags, and then up here we should have some carburetor and choke cleaner. Okay, so we'll grab these guys, and we're going to go outside and grab a stool to work on. Got a stool. So we're going to take our part and we're going to put a little bit of isopropyl on a rag, and we just want to wipe away any of that dust or grime that got built up on it. So you can kind of see some of that dust that's just coming right off of it. And so we just want to really wipe that part down, get all that grossness off of it. Now this gets rid of any particles that are on it, but we also want to get rid of any of the oils that have built up on this part. And so for that, what we'll do is we'll open up the carb cleaner and close this up. And we're just going to spray down the part on both sides, so a little bit of a spray, and it evaporates very, very quickly. But that's going to take care of any oils that have been built up on it. So you'll go ahead and do that for all of your parts, and make sure there's no kind of fibers or abrasives on it, so we can kind of pull those off. And then we can go ahead and move back inside and start getting those ready for powder coating. So let's go ahead and move inside. And we're going to go ahead and put everything away. So we'll put our towels back there, this guy back up here, our isopropyl back up here, and we can throw away these towels in our trash can. That's right there. Okay, so now at this point we're ready to get our parts hung up, and we're actually going to be preheating them in our oven. And so to hang them up, we've got a bunch of just these little floral wires up here. And so what you'll do is you will just run one through your part, and then just give it a couple of twists at the top to make it nice and easy to hang. And so we can go ahead and hang this part up in our oven. To do that, we're going to open up the oven. There's a small little latch right here. We can kind of push on this little lever, and that lets us open this up. And there's another one right down here. Again, this small little lever you push, and that's going to open it up. Now this oven is heating up, so we got to make sure that we are very careful around it. But we can go ahead and hang that in there. And I've got a couple more parts, so I'm just going to kind of push that temporarily closed. But let's go ahead and do another part. So here's a little Among Us dude that we want to powder coat today. And so again, we'll kind of push it through. Twist it a couple of times. Open this up. And we'll find another spot to hang it. Okay? And so once we've got all of our parts hung, we're going to push, and we're going to latch these all the way this time. We want that to be all the way to the back on both top and bottom. And you've got to pull that to kind of really get it to latch in. And we're going to let this heat until it hits 375 degrees. And so you can see right now it's 163 degrees, but the bottom it's the target temperature of 375. So we're going to let this sit here and bake for maybe 10 minutes until it gets up to that 375. And that's going to actually let all those kind of residual oils or things that are going to mess up our powder coating, it's going to burn it off, and then we'll come back and we'll be ready to powder coat paint. Okay. So while you're waiting for this to finish heating up, we can go and prepare our space for the powder coating process. So we're going to have to kind of turn a couple of things on and get a few different things ready. So let's go ahead and do that. So one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to come over to here. This is our compressor for the powder coating gun. And if you come on this side, you're going to see a big on-off switch. And so we're going to go ahead and switch that to be on. And it's very quiet, but it'll turn on and start to kind of get charged up with some air. We're also going to turn on this little compressor. It has a little black switch. This one's a little bit louder. We're going to turn it on. And I didn't hear anything come on. So let's just double check if I've got air. So that should be in good shape now. We want to have some air going there. We're also going to turn on this fan. So you kind of reach up here, turn it one time, and it should turn on and start to kind of suck some air out. Again, this is going to help with the powder coating process. At this point, let's go ahead and talk about the process. So what we're going to do is we're going to put down some color first, bake the color on, and then put some clear on top of those parts. And so as we get ready to do this, we're going to go ahead and mask up with our full face respirators, as well as putting on some overalls, since this is going to be shooting powder a little bit all over the place. So here on the far door, you're going to see our jumpsuits. They come in a couple different sizes, so you can kind of grab one off the hook. And this is just to kind of keep your clothes in decent order, because we're going to be kind of shooting some powder around. So you kind of shake it out. Put it on up. So this is going to be just good at kind of keeping your clothes decent. You're not going to want to wear nice clothes during this, but this will keep whatever clothes you're wearing in good shape. We're also going to come back and grab our respirators, right? So again, those are located here along this wall. And so grab your respirator and go and throw it on and tighten it up against your face for this process.
All right, so now that we've got our jumpsuits on and our respirators on, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our hose here and we're going to hook it up to our color gun. And so you can tell it's the color gun because it says color, and that's the color, and also it's got the red bob on the bottom. And so we're going to pull this back, push it in, and let it go. All right, so it should hold on pretty well. I'm going to tighten this up real quick. Okay, tight. There we go. That's in good shape. And so now we're going to come down in here, right, and we're going to find our team's color. Right, so if you're green, or if you're white, right, if you're orange, there's a color for everybody here. I'm going to choose Illusion Raspberry because it's a nice pink color. Okay, so I'm going to bring that out here and place that in here. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up, And there's a little packet in here that's a desiccant packet. Okay, and so I'm going to go in and remove that and set it to the side. I'm going to close it up, and I'm going to shake it up just to remove any clumps that have broken up into it. I want that to be really good powder, so let's just kind of shake it and break up any clumps that are in it. Okay? At this point then, I'm going to take my color gun, and I'm going to remove the empty color cup, set it to the side. I'm going to open up this, and I'm going to push this in and twist it all the way until it's tight. Okay? And I'm going to hang it back up for now. Now at this point, I want to come over to our color system. All right, so we've got color and clear. We're doing color right now, so I'm going to turn the color on. And at this point, we're going to get ready to actually take our parts out of the oven and start powder coating them. Alright, so we're getting close to being able to pull our parts out. And we've got to think about a little bit more protection. So we don't need our rubber gloves anymore. We need some heat gloves. So we'll throw those away. And we're going to grab these heat gloves instead so we can handle the hot parts. Now these won't keep you perfectly safe, but they'll keep you enough where you can kind of grab the parts by the wires and hang them up. So we've got our gloves on. We're going to go ahead and check our gun first before we start spraying some parts. What we're going to do is we're going to bring this down, and what we want is a fine mist of powder. We don't want a ton, right? We just need a little bit of powder coming out of there. So I'm actually going to hold the gun kind of in this angle, kind of pointed slightly upward, and I'm going to barely just pull this trigger and see if I can get some powder coming out. All right, so I'm just going to barely pull the trigger. And that's what we want to see. It's a nice fine mist of metallic powder. Okay, so that's looking good. So our gun looks like it's in good shape. So let's go ahead. We're going to pull our first part and we're going to powder coat it. So to do that, I'm going to find the colored alligator clip. And I'm going to clip it here on this hook. And that's going to provide some electrical current. It's going to allow the powder to stick to the part. Okay, so we're going to open this up. Okay, I'm going to grab our first part. And I'm going to hang it from this hook. Right? I'm going to grab my gun. Okay? And what's going to happen is I'm going to press this pedal called color. Okay? Now, I cannot be touching anything metallic while I'm pressing that pedal. That's sending electrical current through our system, right? And you don't want to touch the part, you don't want to touch the table, as long as that color pedal is pressed. Otherwise, you'll get a little bit of a shock. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the pedal. You notice the green light turns on that says spraying. I'm going to come in close. Now it doesn't look really pink yet, right? But believe me, the color is there. Now again, my foot is off the pedal. Now it's okay to touch. My foot is not on the pedal, so I can touch it. I'm going to pick it up and rotate it. I'm going to put my foot back on the pedal and spray it. Again, if you're touching the pedal, you cannot touch anything. So pedal's on. Pedal is off. Now it's safe to touch. So I'm going to hang my gun back up. Okay, again, I can touch it because the pedal isn't touched. And now I can put it back in the oven. Okay. I'm going to grab my other part. I'm going to hang it up. I'm going to grab my gun. Okay. My foot's on the pedal. Again, can't touch anything. And I'm going to come. I'm going to shoot that powder. Again, a nice fine mist. Foot off the pedal. rotate. Gotta get them. There we go. Alright, look, on the pedal, don't touch anything. Look, off the pedal. Hang the gun up. Get the part. And hang it up to start curing. Alright, so at this point, you want to fully close it up. Okay? And you want that to start curing for about 10 minutes. While all your parts are curing in the oven, we can start cleaning up and getting ready for the clear coat. So let's go ahead and do that. So, what we're going to do is we're going to pull this back and release this from the gun. And put this over here. Okay? What we're then going to do, we're going to take our gun down. We're going to very carefully remove this. And we want to put our desiccant back in. Okay. Tighten that back up. And put it back in our drawer. Okay. We then need to blow all this out. Right? So for this, we grab our little cleaning gun. And a couple things, a couple areas we want to focus on. You want to kind of put it just up to this tube. And it's going to shoot that powder out of the gun. You want to come down here. And again, you want to get it out of this tube. You want to get it out of this tube. Just really clean it up to make sure there's no powder left in it. Okay, after that, we can put the empty bucket back on it. We can hang it back up and turn our machine off. Okay, it's going to take a little while for it to turn off, so really let that come all the way down. Okay, so now that our color is still baking and we got our color done cleared out, let's start getting ready for the clear. So to do that, I'm going to unclip our color alligator clip here. And I'm going to grab the black alligator clip, that's for clear. And I'm going to go ahead and click it on right there. We'll grab our hose here. And we're going to come over to the gun called clear. It has the black dongle on it. And we'll go ahead and attach the gun there. We'll come down to our drawer. We want to find the clear vision. We're going to open it up. Remove the desiccant packet. Close it up nice and tightly. And you can kind of shake it up. Break up any clumps that are built up into it. You know, as good as you can. Alright, so we're going to grab our clear gun. We're going to loosen up this empty clear. We're going to attach it into our gun. Hopefully while not pulling the trigger. Alright, we'll hang that back up. We're going to turn on the clear machine, right here, and then I'm going to push away the color pedal and bring the clear pedal out. We're ready to start powder coating. Alright, so it's been about 10 minutes, so let's go ahead and pull our first part, and we're going to clear coat it, and repeat that process that we did similar to when we did the color. So let's get started. here. We've got our clear gun. Okay. We're going to press the clear pedal. It says spraying. And we're going to give it just that same nice fine mist. Okay. So the foot is off. Flip it around. And as we can. Okay, put it on. Nice fine mist. Okay. Foot is off. Bring it back up. And we're going to return it back to the oven. Press the pedal. Move this out of the way. There we go. Try again. So press the pedal. A little bit too much. Put off the pedal. Put off the pedal. Sit for a second. Okay. And back into the oven. When we're done with all our parts, we'll close it up completely. And this needs to bake for about 18 minutes. So set a timer. While it's baking, we can do some final cleanup. So I'm going to turn off the clear. I want that to come all the way down. And I'm going to remove this little grounding clip from there. At this point, we can disconnect our hose. We're going to turn it back over here. And then we're going to switch this off. So going to the off position, we're going to turn that off. Okay? We come back over to our gun. Okay, I'm going to break the powder down. We're going to loosen this up. We're going to return the desiccant into it. Make sure the lid goes on nice and tight. And turn it to the drawer. At this point, we're going to grab our air hose. The same thing, we're going to kind of clear this out completely. Get all that powder off. And reattach the empty clear. And hang that back up. And we're going to turn off our compressor. Yeah, so flip it forward for off. That way it's on. So the compressor is now off. And at this point, we're going to let this keep baking. When it goes off, we'll step through how to pull your parts off and get everything kind of cooled down. But for now, we can get rid of our gloves. And we can get rid of our dust mask and our respirator.
Okay, and then last little bit, we can turn this fan off. So you'll want to hang your respirator back up on the wall, set a timer, come back when this is ready to cool down. Another quick thing that you can do, make sure that you return your jumpsuit to the door. So we can pull that off, shake all the powder off of it.
Open your clothes, stay in good shape. Did you powder?
And so it's got a big grommet here. Just hang it by the grommet and you're ready to go. All right, so our parts have been baking for about 18 minutes, and so let's go ahead and take a look through the window. What we should see is we should see a much stronger color and a little bit of gloss from that clear. If that's what it's looking like, then you are in good shape. If it's still looking a little dull or you don't see the color, let it bake for another 2 or 3 minutes and then check it again, and that should be okay. But what we're gonna do is these are still really hot, but we're ready to let them cool down. So we're gonna turn off the oven. So we're gonna click that off, and then we're gonna go ahead and crack this open. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and let this door open, and we're just gonna leave it open and let it air out for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna come back to our parts. And so if we kind of head on out, 10 minutes. Now if you come into the paint studio and you see this door open, maybe another group is letting their parts air out or cool down, just be careful. You should always treat this as if it's really hot, so don't just like slam your hand up against it. Always be a little bit careful around an open oven because it's probably pretty hot. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. We're gonna kind of come and check. So the overall oven's still a little warm, but this feels okay. So if you're not sure, you can always put on those gloves. And so we're gonna go ahead and take our part off. You know, feels cool to the touch. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and free it up from this part. And so we can return these back into their bin so somebody else can use them a little bit later on. Do the same with this part. That goes back in. And so here we can kind of actually see that that nice color that's been built up. Do get a little bit, it seems like we could have gotten a little more color on these sides, so always kind of pay close attention to those edges. But overall, we've got that strong kind of coating on there and a nice rich color. So these are okay, you know, but as you practice a little bit more with it, you'll get a little bit better at kind of just making sure you get that nice even coating on the parts. One last thing that we're gonna do before we kind of head out, we did kind of create a bit of a mess here. And so we're gonna go ahead and grab our shop vac here. And we're going to go ahead and fire it up and just kind of suck up any kind of just excess powder that is here on the space. All right. Go ahead and put that back. And then I'm going to look around and just make sure, you know, anything that I left out gets thrown away. And I've got my powder coated parts all done.